Okay, guys, in this part of the lesson, we're going to learn how to use explicit and recursive form in a word problem. Before we begin, we need to remember that our sequences, the domain of our sequence is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So we will always identify what the domain and the range is in our word problem and make sure that that first term makes sense to the word problem. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's read this one. A seedling is 3 inches tall and is predicted to grow an additional 4 inches each week. Now, the seedling starts out at 3 inches, but that's not in week 1. That's in quote unquote week 0. That would be the 0th term, which a sequence does not have. That would be useful if we were writing a typical linear function y equals mx plus b, but we're talking about an arithmetic sequence. And so we begin with 3 inches, but after week 1, it will be 4 inches taller, which is 7 inches. So let's make sure we understand the domain. The domain in this word problem is going to be after week 1, week 2, and week 3, and so on. So domain is the weeks. The range is the height at the end of each week. So we have week 1. At the end of week 1, it was 3 inches plus 4 more. So at week 1, it's 7 inches tall. Our first term is not 3. That would be before we started counting the weeks. And then we have week 2, week 3, all the way until we get to the 12th week to see how tall the seedling is. So it says it grows 4 inches tall each week or taller. So at week 2, it is 7 plus the 4, which is 11. And then in week 3, it's 4 more inches and it's 15. Now let's create our recursive definition, which defines our sequence. So we always need the first term, which in this case is 7. It is 7 inches after week 1. Then we need to know the pattern of how we're getting the height from week to week. So we have the previous term and then it's plus 4. Our explicit form, we need to know the first term 7 plus the common difference of the 4 inches times n minus 1. And then let's distribute the 4. Then we're going to combine like terms and get 4n plus 3. This is the explicit form. We want to know in 12 weeks, the 12th week, so 12 will be replaced with n. We want to know how tall the seedling is then, or our plant. So in week 12, it's 4 times 12, which is 48, plus 3. So in week 12, it is 51 inches tall. Okay, let's take a look at our second example. A brick staircase begins with 100 bricks on stair step 1. Each successive step requires 2 bricks less than the previous step. There are 30 steps in all. Okay, so we have 30 steps. The first step has 100 bricks. So this does give us our first actual sequence number. So in step 1, so our domain is going to be the steps. So we're going to have a first step, a second step, a third step, all the way to we get 30 steps. The range is the number of bricks in each step. So we do know our A1. It is 100. Then the next step is going to have 2 less bricks, which would be 98. Step 3 would have 96 bricks. And we need to know how many bricks is in the 30th step. So let's define our sequence. A sub 1 is 100. To get to the next sequence number, we take the previous and we subtract 2 bricks. Our recursive form is A sub n equals 100, our first term, minus 2 times n minus 1. We distribute, and that's a -1, a little sloppy there, sorry about that. That'll be a +2. So we have -2n plus 102. So if we want to know on the 30th step, so we're going to plug in 30 for n, -2 times 30 plus 102. We get -60 plus 102. So our 30th step has 42 bricks. Steve owes $100,000 for a loan. In the first month, he pays $400. So right there, guys, kind of tells me that I already know my A sub 1. I don't have to apply the common difference to get that number like we did in our first example of the seedling. In the first month, he pays $400. Each following month, he increases the payment by $300. So let's talk about our domain and our range. The domain in this case is going to be months. The range is the amount of money that he pays that month, not accumulation, but what his monthly payment or the payment that he will make that month. So in month 1, he made a payment of $400. In month 2, he will make that plus $300 more, so it will be $700. In month 3, he will pay $1,000 and so forth. We want to know in what month will he make a payment of, and then it was not, I think it was supposed to say $1,900. Let's just write that in. So we want to know in what month, so that's going to be my position, that's going to be the N, when the payment that month is, let's not use a comma there since our sequence is using commas, that might get confusing. So that's the question. What month will he make a payment of $19,000, which is quite a lot for a month, a payment for a month. Okay, here we go. A sub 1 is 400. The first month he pays 400. Then he's going to pay that much, the previous amount, plus 300 more. Our explicit A sub n is equal to that first payment plus 300 times n minus 1. Distribute our 300 and combine like terms. So again, we want to know our input, when our output of 19,000, we want to know what month he pays $19,000. So that's going to be divide each side by 300. And in the month is going to be 63. So on his 63rd month of paying, he's going to make a payment of $19,000. Wowzer. McCall is writing her 5th book. She has written 20 pages on her own. She begins getting inspiration from her friend Rachel. At the end of the first week, McCall has 30 more pages written. She continues to write at this rate. Okay, so she has written 20 pages. At the end of the first week with her inspiration from Rachel, she has written 30 more pages. So that's a total of 50 pages. So this one doesn't give our A sub 1 term, our first term up front. So let's define. My domain is the weeks. At the end of each week is the number of pages that McCall has written once she started working with Rachel. So at week 1, she has her original 20 pages plus the 30 more. So she has 50 pages written after week 1. After week 2, she's going to continue at this rate. At the end of week 2, she has 30 more pages, so that's going to be 80. At the end of week 3, it's going to be 30 more, so 110. We're going to write the recursive and explicit form to predict the number of weeks it takes her to write her book. How many pages will she have written in 20 weeks? So 20 weeks. So range is our pages that she has written. So at the end of first week, she now has 50 and so forth. So our recursive A sub 1 equals the 50 that she starts out with at the end of the first week. So remember, our domain is weeks. At the end of the week, how many pages does she have? Then to get how many she needs for that next week, we have that previous plus the 30 pages. Explicit, 50 plus the common difference times n minus 1. Distribute the 30 and combine like terms. And the question is, at the 20th week, how many pages will she have written? So let's plug in 20. 30 times 20, that's going to be 600 plus 20, so a total of 620. So at the end of week 20, she will have 620 pages read. I hope this helps.